Discovering possibilities and potential with passion every day. This is a TPPN production. Welcome to the iPad Possibilities Podcast, episode number 85, the Apple event. This podcast is sponsored by Gadget Freeway. Check out Gadget Freeway's gear and gadgets at gadgetfreeway.com, including their iPad case bag, their iPad pillow, and much more. So check them out, gadgetfreeway.com. And once again, I appreciate their support of this podcast. And let's get on to the show. I'm here today with John, and we're going to be discussing this Apple event that happened, the iPod event. How are you doing tonight, John?
I'm doing well, Tim. Happy to have been able to watch the Apple announcement live.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Google did this with their YouTube stuff, and I didn't really like their method of it. I think it was a pretty good implementation. It flickered for a little bit on my end and cut out on both Wi-Fi and 3G, but I was able to watch it. How was your experience with it?
Yeah, I had some flickering as well and kind of stalling, but overall it worked out pretty well. And it was, interesting to be able to see it right away as opposed to waiting, a day or two until Apple put out the recording. So,
yeah, that was a big plus. I hope they do that for every event because I think. What's your speculation on this? Do you think they did the live stream because of the previous event where they were having Wi-Fi problems with all those MiFis, or were they testing out the waters for their data center and future projects?
Well, I think it was all about the technology and probably future projects more than anything. I mean, I thought initially about whether they were doing it to alleviate the MiFi kind of problem, but they certainly didn't. Well, one, they didn't have anything that they had to test in that regard, and two is they asked people to silence their devices at the beginning of the thing, but they didn't say anything about turning them off. So it was certainly not really apparently intended to do that. But this is newer technology, and it's part of all their streaming stuff. So, they're in the cloud now, and that's what this is all about.
Yeah, and I'm excited about their cloud initiatives when they start doing those, hopefully later this year. And let's just kind of go through the event. I took notes while doing this. I watched the video on my iPad, and then I kind of alternated between iPads to try to get the better signal or whatever, and took notes. And Apple basically, it was Steve Jobs the whole keynote. That was the most interesting thing I have to say off the bat. He wasn't wearing his turtleneck either. He was wearing different clothes, and he did the whole event. That was the first time he's done that since. What's the last event he did the whole show? That's kind of a big change.
Yeah, I can't recall, but it was a little different because it was, very much the iPods and and software and stuff. And so I guess he didn't feel like he needed any support. And, he was looking very good. For a guy who was on his deathbed a couple of years ago, looks like he's really back. So.
Yeah, he definitely was full of energy and ready to go. And he started off the show with the retail, just updating the retail, what they were doing, and exciting stuff. Not much to talk about there. I mean, some cool stuff.
Just one thing to throw out there. I thought it was pretty interesting that he called out Steve Wozniak in the audience.
Yeah, that was kind of heartfelt. It's like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and Steve Wozniak, I think, just celebrated his 60th birthday, but I don't know if that had something to do with it or not. But it was unusual because I'm pretty sure that the Woz has been in the audience at other times in the past, but it was nice to see that.
Yeah, it definitely was. And then he moved kind of on the iOS, and this was an interesting part for me because iOS means he might talk about the iPad a little bit. So he revealed that 120 million devices have been sold with iOS on it. 230,000 new activations per day of iOS. So that includes iPads, iPod Touches that get activated through iTunes, as you have to do when you set them up, as all those iPad owners found out. And that's kind of an interesting number because Android, I'm not sure how many new activations they have every day. This doesn't include people that upgrade devices or whatever, is what I understand. Is that a big number or is that significant?
Well, it certainly seemed a big number to me. I just want what I wonder is how they get this number.
Isn't
You
that
know,
easy? In iTunes, don't you once you hook up your device, you register it to your Apple ID, right?
sure, but the question is, how do they uh, how do they separate out new from upgrades? I mean, I took it to be upgrades as if I have, a 3G phone and I go out and get a iPhone 4, that's just an upgrade, right? Or is it?
Right. I think. Yeah, I'm not sure what he means by this. Perhaps he does mean that every new iPod Touch, once you have one iPod Touch per person, that's your one, and when you have one iPhone per person, you have one iPad per person, and perhaps
Yeah,
they're tracking that, right?
it's the devil is in the detail when you talk statistics, and so it was an interesting statistic, but we don't have anything to compare it to, and we don't know exactly what it means. So, while it's interesting, I'm not sure it's relevant without the details.
Yeah, I can understand that. What is kind of cool is 25,000 iPad apps out of 250,000 total. A quarter million total, 25,000 are iPad apps. That's kind of a significant number, I think.
Yes, definitely. So, the iPad is certainly going strong and here to stay, is what that's telling me. It's being adopted by the developers and they're pushing it.
That's kind of their iOS updates as far as numbers and things. So then you moved on kind of the updates themselves. So 4.1, 4.1's coming out, and this is mostly iPhone related. It's entirely iPhone related, pretty much. So iPhone 3G will be significantly faster. HDR photos, which look phenomenal. Basically, it takes 3 photos and one you're overlighting and one's underlighting and one's regular, and it kind of has an algorithm for that. And that's kind of an important thing to talk about. I think they're making some strides with getting really good photos, as I kind of view the iPod Touch as a peripheral device for the iPad. And the iPod Touch, now it does photos.
Right, right. Yeah, so it's the HDR is something that as a photo enthusiast I've dealt with, and it's nice to see it being done in the iPhone as opposed to having to do it manually. So that's kind of cool. And it's nice that you get the original as well as that, so you don't have to do an either or kind of thing, which other implementations in camera have resulted in. You turn it on and you end up having the HDR without any option of, if you didn't like the way it looked, of getting back to the original. So that's kind of cool. The whole update, the whole 4.1 update, since so much of it does seem to be focused on bug fixes.
Yeah,
You
I've
mentioned,
installed it on my iPod Touch, and I have not noticed anything since there's no camera and it's not slow. And right now, I don't know. There wasn't much. Game Center's kind of inactive still because the games aren't on there yet. So right now, it was just bug fixes and not very big to me.
yeah, and so it's you mentioned the 3G performance. There's also the proximity sensor in the iPhone 4 that was supposedly fixed, and I think there was one other major bug fix which escapes me at the moment. But I actually think, and this is total speculation on my part, but I actually think that they're bringing out 4.1 now solely because of those bug fixes.
Oh, it's got to be the iPhone 3G. People are just crying out, "I can't downgrade and I can't have a phone that's working anymore." And then the proximity sensor,
Yeah.
um, the HDR stuff's really cool. I have to say, that's just wow. That's
It, and they probably just had it ready and decided to roll it in and make it something other than just a bug fix.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I see it as a bug fix, and the real news is, in my mind, is 4.2, which is coming out in
Oh, yeah.
November.
Yeah, 4.2 November for all devices. And it's mainly focused on iPad. That's what Steve said. And there's two big ones. The first one's wireless printing, and the second one's AirPlay. So wireless printing, this is gonna be huge. Universities and students. I remember when I had my iPads, it was such a pain. I had to go to iWork.com to find an iMac on campus that I could print to, and it was just a mess. So for students, it'll be huge. Businesses, huge. I mean, isn't this going to just make the iPad much more of a laptop replacement if one needs it to be?
Yeah, absolutely it will. And there's printing solutions available now for the iPhone or the iPad, but they're not integrated, and you really need printing to be a system level capability, and so that's what Apple's offering with 4.2. So I kind of feel sorry for those people that that are selling printing solutions, because I don't think they're going to sell many between now and November, and after November.
No, not at all. They'll be out of business, which is a
Yeah,
good thing because their solutions aren't really that good, in my opinion.
no, I
Because you
mean
need to
they've
run server side software most of the time, and
yeah they've done some pretty interesting workarounds to try to make it happen.
but they are
And you have to hand it to
workarounds.
them to be for being ingenious in how they worked it around. But
Yeah. So that'll
it's
be
it's
kind of cool. Do you think the drivers would obviously be on board the iPad, and it's only Wi-Fi? It wouldn't be Bluetooth printers. That'd be kind of a cool thing.
yeah. I wonder now whether with the camera connection kit, whether we're going to see the
Ooh,
ability to print directly through USB if we have drivers.
we would have drivers. That's interesting. Yeah, that'll be fun. Hopefully, I'll have an answer for everybody in a couple of weeks. I'm guessing 4.2 isn't out to the developers, but 4.1 has their GM that was released, and that goes out next week. And I'd imagine once that goes out, we'd get 4.2 to play around with. So developers should have their hands on it quickly, and we'll see leaks from other people that are playing with it, and I can share their findings.
It may be yet a few weeks before we get a developer version of 4.2, but
Yeah.
certainly you expect it out in the near future.
Yep. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. It'll be within this month for sure, September. And the other big one was AirPlay. They've rebranded AirTunes that I've absolutely loved. I actually use it to listen to music throughout the house. But with AirPlay, the concept is you have your iPad, you're watching a movie or TV show, you run into your family room to have lunch or whatever, and you just click a button like you do for subtitles and different audio versions of that movie, and it's instantly playing on your Apple TV. Now, that's cool in itself. My thought here is if this is built into the system level of video playback and how that whole framework is built, will this be implemented without any developer input into apps like Netflix, app like Hulu, Air Video? Will that be something that happens with this, or will be it just that iPod app?
Well, I would expect that it would be an API, an interface that developers could use. I don't think it will be one that it will just magically start to work.
Okay.
Um, Typically that's not the way that most things on the iPad or the iPhone tend to work. Is you tend to need to put a little, you need to call it from your app.
Okay. So even in I'm not sure how much you know about this. In video playback apps, if you have multiple audio tracks, it doesn't automatically sense that and add that to the UI like it does in the videos app of the iPad.
I don't know about that particular thing, but I do know that a lot of the APIs, which should be, kind of they're system level things, but your app still needs to make a call to it.
Okay. But yeah, I think that this is going to be such a huge thing because the one thing, we'll get to Apple TV later, is we're still missing apps. I believe it's based on iOS 4, but it's still missing apps. Now, if the iPad took care of the problem of just having all the apps that you want video playback on, and you could simply use that for your apps and have Hulu from that, have Air Video using that with Apple TV that way. But another concern has arisen here is there kind of a problem where you're streaming video from Hulu to your iPad, which is then streaming to your Apple TV? Is that gonna would that work with all those different streaming layers in there?
Well, it should. I mean, you may, if you're using Wi-Fi for both streaming, you'll end up with some degradation because you're using twice the bandwidth. But if you were, say, streaming from your laptop or your desktop, and you were Ethernet hardwired to the router, your slowest link is still going to be from your router to the internet.
Yeah.
And so that shouldn't be an issue if you're not trying to pump everything through Wi-Fi at one time.
Yeah. Okay. And another thing before we leave the 4.2 update is, was the video playing back fine when they were showing the Print Center like app?
Yeah, it was.
It wasn't a full app. It was a new thing, something we haven't seen before, right?
It was. Yeah, it was kind of a little different looking interface in doing that. But
for those that didn't watch it, it was in the multitasking bar at the bottom of the iPad. And I didn't get to see if it was horizontal. If we flipped, I imagine it would. But once you do that, it'll have the number of print jobs, and if you tap on it, it does a similar to when you're in Mail on vertical mode. It has that little overlay thing that just goes up from the bottom, and you're able to close out jobs. It looked like a different kind of app, like a widget almost.
Well, it was, yeah, it used a different kind of overlay, but it'll be interesting to see if there's some new types of interface API calls to use.
Yeah, because we could have like full apps, and then we could also install like mini apps. I don't know. That was just kind of an interesting thing I saw. It's like, what could other developers do with this? Weather, we could have a weather pop-up that just tells us the weather for, we don't need to launch an app. We can just, have that pop-up,
Yeah, I think we may find out that it's only available for like a system level kind of thing.
Oh, that would make sense as well. Yeah.
So it might be that we'll see some changes to some of the other system level things that need some kind of interface to them.
Settings app. Wouldn't that be awesome if they did a settings app where you're able to launch it, or you could have that overlay to quickly change brightness or whatever. I don't know how they would implement that, but
very, very cool.
But yeah, so that was kind of the iPad update. And let's kind of go through the iPods. I think a lot of listeners will be curious about these, and some of them relate to the iPad in some way. But the Shuffle was updated to kind of the same one that I have. I have the second generation. It's the little clip one. They basically combined the second and third generation to include the voiceover, multiple playlist support, Genius, and it's now $49 at 2 gigabytes. Kind of a cool little guy, and
very cool. And it's interesting that it's kind of gone back to an earlier look, right? I mean, it's the one I loved.
I hated that third generation no button one.
Yeah.
And it's kind of Apple saying, we were wrong, and let's combine it with the stuff that we did right with the third, and this is the way it'll be. And it fits right in with the Nano, which is basically the Shuffle with a screen. I'm loving this Nano. I would love to just have a Nano to turn it into like my Apple Watch, because they showed that clock app on this Nano, which you could turn the iPod Nano into a watch if you really wanted to.
Yeah, Steve mentioned that one of the board members was going to use it as a watch, but I think that's pretty cool. And the question is, I mean, it certainly looks like it's running just a set number of apps. This kind of, and I'm kind of jumping the gun talking about the Apple TV again, but I just really wonder when these things get into people's hands, who's going to hack it and be able to put something else on, you know, the Nano.
Right. From my understanding, it looks like iOS, but it's not. Oddly, it's just skin or whatever that looks like it. That's what I've been hearing. I'm not sure if that's
Well,
true.
but it's still, I mean, you're still interacting with it, right? So
Right. It'd be a different
borrowed.
development kit, though, right?
Well, true, but they had to have borrowed heavily from iOS. If it's not a complete implementation of iOS, it may just be that they took pieces of iOS and
Oh,
left.
sort of like how Mac OS X is the full version of iOS, and this is the scaled down version of iOS.
Yeah, I, I
Yeah.
I can't imagine that they would have tried to reinvent a touch a touch interface. So at least the touch part is probably all iOS code.
Yeah.
And so if there's any way to kind of figure out how to hack into it, somebody's going to do it, and they're going to
Oh
find some
yeah.
way to do some interesting stuff.
Yeah, we'll have jailbreak community number 2 here with Nano and the Apple TV. I'm sure. Uh, I think we didn't mention that it's basically just the updated shuffle with a screen that's now touch based, and it looks very much like iOS. You're able to drag icons around. You're able to turn the screen around by just 2 fingers rotating, and it's got a pedometer, Nike Plus, and FM radio inside. It's got the voice memo app if you've got the headphones, 24-hour battery life. It does have a dock connector, which is interesting because the Shuffle still lacks a dock connector, but the Nano, the same kind of dimensions, has a dock. What's
Well,
that all
it's really
about?
dimensions. Really, the Nano is from what I saw, the Nano is probably about 40% bigger than the Shuffle,
Oh, okay.
and probably just big enough. They probably didn't want to make it any smaller than that, partially because of the dock connector and partially because of a screen smaller than that wouldn't be usable. But yeah, it's 40% smaller than the previous Nano and 40% lighter as well.
Yeah, I just picked up my second generation Shuffle, and there's definitely room for that dock connector on there, but they simply chose not to do it that way. The internals might not have room for it though.
Yeah,
Um, but I love the rotating of the screen with the fingers. That was kind of the cool. Like, ooh, that's awesome.
yeah, that was a very cool feature.
But yeah, I'll be excited to see the hacking community, see if we can come up with some apps for this. And I thought it was interesting. They have this clipping. It's designed for athletics. One thing, why is why don't they have Bluetooth in this yet? For the Bluetooth headphones, because when I'm exercising, that's why I still want to take the iPod Touch, because it got Bluetooth. I can do the headphones and no wires. That's my biggest, you know, selling feature of that, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. When I go out for a jog with the iPhone, I don't use Bluetooth headphones, and I should because the wire is just pesky. But I get much better sound from my wired headphones than I do from my Bluetooth. So that's probably why I do it because
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
my
just picked.
ear close out the traffic sounds and stuff like that, and I just get a better.
Yeah, I just picked up a pair of Jaybird headphones or Bluetooth. They're released earlier this year, and they're really designed for running and athletics, and they're pretty phenomenal sound. And you can also hear what's around you at the same times, which is good. So I don't want to get ran over, but pretty cool setup with the Bluetooth headphones and Nike Plus, and it's kind of like a video game for running, I think. This Nike Plus system. But yeah, let's move away from the Nano and move on to my favorite of the iPods in general is the Touch, because I'm constantly trying to see if this is the true companion for the iPad as far as the iPad Mini or whatever. So it's thinner. It's got a front and back camera, a Retina display, the A4 chip, gyro. It's got FaceTime and pretty cool update. I'm pretty impressed with it.
Yeah, it is very impressive. I mean, the Retina display, the cameras, it really does make it an iPhone 4 without the 3G.
Yeah, I forgot to mention it's got a mic too, an actual mic on the iPod Touch. It's like
So
the perfect
it's
Skype device.
yeah, absolutely. It's the perfect Skype device, definitely.
And
Um,
oh, sorry.
yeah, and I don't know if you've seen in the App Store, but there's people that have created essentially walkie-talkie kind of apps for Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I mean, this would be the perfect device for that.
Oh, definitely. And yeah, I'm very excited about the how they make it thinner and then add two cameras to this guy. That's just wild because I'm holding the iPod Touch, the current generation. It's insanely thin. It's I mean any thinner than this, we're gonna get to paper thin. It's just crazy.
You're going to get paper cuts from your iPod
Yeah,
Touch.
we're gonna have the next version will include that liquid metal and we'll have even thinner iPods.
It'll get so thin that there'll be a Surgeon General's warning that you should use it with a case to avoid cutting your hand.
Yeah. So out of all these iPods, are there any that oh the classic is still around? It was kind of funny. Steve mentioned that all the iPods are getting a major redesign, and then he just doesn't mention the classic. So it's still in the store and you can buy it, and that's a I don't know. That's interesting. I
Well, I
think
wonder if they're phasing it out though.
I think
Uh,
next year we'll have the iPod Touch with 128 gigabytes, and at that point in time, they'll say we have 128 gigabytes. That's plenty, and the classic is gone at that point.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's gone before then. Actually,
Really, I think.
yeah.
Well, with 64 gigabytes, I think it's enough for most people, especially if you do the 128K down conversion on the fly. That's one way to fit all your music onto it too.
Well, and remember, it's all about playlists, right? I mean, that's what Apple keeps saying is you shouldn't be trying to put everything on your mobile device. You should be putting a selection of your library on your mobile device.
Right.
So,
My dad recently was very happy he had the iPod Classic with everything on it because his hard drive failed. So, in some cases, it's good to have that classic with your whole library, even if it's just for a backup that can be played back on, speakers or whatever. So, were there any of the updates that you yourself are looking at getting anytime soon, or are you just not in the market for a new iPod of any sort?
well, I'm really kind of I wasn't before today in the market for an iPad or iPod. Let me just say that. But after seeing that new Nano, um, it kind of calls to me. The Touch is very interesting as well, but I'm probably going to get an iPhone 4 before I get a Touch. So,
Makes no
you know, I'll,
sense for you then.
I'll get all that stuff in the iPhone 4. So, but the Nano is very intriguing, and I might pick one up just because it's intriguing.
Yeah.
150 bucks, but I've spent 150 bucks on things before that were just intriguing. So
Yeah, for me it's I don't know. I feel compelled to get this new touch. I don't know. I'm not sure if I need it or not, but very compelled by it. I'm compelled by the fact that I would now once again have a microphone in my pocket and cameras in my pocket, and the front-facing camera is compelling as well to do video podcasts, and it's an oddly compelling device since I already have a touch. And I'd probably spring for the 8 gigabyte low end model, and this new touch would just simply be my device to not have every app that I own on it, but rather it's my device to shoot video, shoot photos, record audio, access syncing services, cloud services, and this would be going back to just not having anything stored on the device. So that's kind of my that's what I'm looking at getting.
cool.
So yeah, the Nano is very compelling too. It's one of those I just want to have just to have, but I don't think I'd use it very much. I'm not sure if
Yeah,
you understand.
I don't use it either, but it is a just a really neat thing.
It's
You
like
know, I
it's like I want it for my collection.
yeah, and certainly by the time I get it, if it's hackable, somebody will have hacked it, and so I can see what what that's all about.
Yeah, I wish they. It's a shame they don't have Wi-Fi in this guy. That'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was. It's like it looks like it should have Wi-Fi in there, but it doesn't.
Somebody on Twitter was speculating whether um, the new Nano would be like the Star Trek: The Next Generation communicator, the ones
Oh yeah,
that's touched. So
yeah.
that'll be interesting.
And then let's move on to iTunes. iTunes 10 is now out and available. It came available at 11 about 11 p.m. That Wednesday of the day here at Eastern Standard Time. And most significantly, it adds the Ping network, which I am now a member of the Ping network. I signed up and found one person I can follow that was in my Facebook group. So you're able to set up your social network. It connects with Facebook to find friends that are already using Ping, and it's got a new icon for iTunes, and it's a nice little icon. And the interface is more of a gray tone to everything. And one nice thing about syncing is it tells you you're on step 1 of 6, 2 of 6, 3 of 6, so you can actually estimate how much longer the stupid sync has to go. So that's kind of an overview. You haven't had a chance to play with this one yet, have you?
No, no, I haven't. But it's iTunes, and it's something that so many of us have to live with. So I'm sure it's good improvements. The I think the disappointment for a lot of people is that Ping is a social network, but it's not replacing Lala. I think a lot of people were really hoping that there would be some kind of subscription or cloud service like Lala built in, and Ping is just not quite that.
Yeah, it's not quite that. And I think this is just a crazy thought. Steve said closing, we'll see you soon. And he doesn't always say that. He says that every once in a while when they have events pretty close together. I'm thinking they might have a cloud initiative event. I'm not sure what else they could be announcing relatively soon that's brand new. What other devices or services can you think of that are coming out soon from Apple?
Boy, that's a tough one. With 4.2 for the iPad, it might be in time to introduce new iPads, but it still seems too close to the introduction for
Yeah, unless they introduce an iPad family, like the MacBook family, we're going to introduce the iPad family today. We've got the 7-inch, the 10-inch, and like I don't know, a different. If they did that, that might be one way you go about it.
right.
But
So who knows? I actually didn't see that. Did he say that after the Coldplay?
yeah, it was the very last thing he said
Yeah,
before they closed off the video. So
I stuttered was that when the Coldplay guy was singing and it kind of stopped.
yeah, me too. I noticed if you went back to that page after the show was over, it had the full video there, which
Right.
was kind of cool. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what else Apple has up their sleeves pretty soon here. And the one more hobby, as Steve called it, is Apple TV. And I'd have to say this is a incremental update to what we all know as Apple TV. And here are the bullet points that Steve wanted to address here. He said users want good content. They want HD content. They want lower cost content. They want no computer involved. They want no storage management involved. They want no syncing involved. They want to be silent, cool, and small. And it's those were the lists right there. And evidently it's iOS based, but the same old look that we've known all along since version 3, I believe we're at with the software. So what are your initial thoughts about this new device?
Well, there's two things that I think are really important with this. One is everybody needs to buy into the notion of no storage. So it's all streaming. So although I think that there's some probably caching going on because you can rent something and not play it right away.
Yeah, it's probably
But
like a 8 GB internal, maybe 16. I don't know. Apple never said that because they just emphasize the point that there's no storage. And I'm sure the tear it down guys are gonna tear that to pieces and see what's actually in there.
yeah, but so that's one thing is that what Steve is essentially saying is for this kind of device, TV kind of device, it is going to be streaming. Now you can stream from your own computer if you want to do that, but for Joe Average, he's going to be streaming from the internet.
Yeah.
And so in many respects that's kind of like taking a step back and to broadcast TV where everything was streamed. Although you didn't pick what was streamed, you just had to watch it when it was on. Now at least you can pick what you want to have streamed at you. So that's kind of an interesting thing. And in that regard, it's kind of similar to the Roku box. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but
Yeah, yeah, I am.
very very similar to that. In fact, I immediately thought, oh well, I could probably replace my Roku box with this, and probably give me a little bit more capabilities that I'm interested in, as opposed to some of the stuff that Roku does that I'm not interested in. The other thing that was, excuse me, the other thing that I think was really an important point is the price point,
Oh,
$99.
definitely. That was the biggest holding back point at 230 or whatever it was before.
Yeah, so I think at $99, this thing is going to sell like mad. Apple TV has not been a big success as the hobby, but I think a $99 price point, even, and some people would say, well, yeah, but you can't store, you can't buy stuff. Well, you still can buy stuff for you on your laptop or your
Yep.
desktop, and you can stream that. So
Or on
you
your iPad even.
but so that I think that is the killer thing is really the price point. And I think that they'll sell a ton of them because they have the marketing power that Roku doesn't have.
Yeah, I mean, you got the Apple Store, and
Yeah,
for 99 bucks, the cool thing is if you have a huge house with a bunch of different, TV screens, as many Americans do these days, at 99 bucks, you can just buy one for every TV, and since everything stays at the same playback point, you could potentially just have one in each, room of the house, and with the AirPlay, you could just be going from room to room, playing back different. Yeah, it'd be pretty cool, I think.
very, very cool. And the size, I mean, I think they were very wise to work very hard on making this very tiny device because that's exactly what that means is that you have, HD TVs in multiple rooms, but you don't have to find room for a box. This thing you could probably Velcro it to the back of your flat screen TV.
If you're willing to use the Wi-Fi remote, right, on the
Right,
iPhone.
right.
And another
But
interesting thing, Engadget got the FCC teardowns, and Bluetooth is actually inside this new Apple TV. It wasn't talked about at all, and it might be something they enable later at a OS upgrade that enables apps and things like that. So that's included in this thing. So I think this new box has a cool future that I think OS upgrades will reveal some cool additions, I think.
I wonder if the remote is Bluetooth.
It's definitely not. I don't want to say definitely, but I do own one of these remotes. It's the aluminum remotes that they've sold
But
for
it's
about a
the
year,
new one.
right?
The new one looked different than the present aluminum one to me.
Really? It looked a little
The
bit different?
looks slightly different than the current aluminum remote.
Oh,
And so
really? Okay.
it would make sense. This box is so small that you're gonna easily be able to almost hide it, but you can't hide it if you need line of sight for your remote, right? For your
Yeah,
info.
I'm trying to investigate the pictures here because the very top of it would indicate if it's IR or not, right? That little black thing, if it's on there.
Not well, not
Not
necessarily, because
necessarily. Okay.
Bluetooth might need a piece of plastic to go through as well to avoid the interference of the aluminum.
Okay. Yeah, I'm very
So
curious about this because that would be kind of cool if we had Bluetooth remotes now for the Apple TV because that IR line of sight thing is just one not good thing about it.
yeah, I mean it's total speculation on my point, but if Bluetooth is in the device, it kind of would make sense to me that the remote might be Bluetooth.
Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of searching for the remote here. And yeah, that'd be interesting. I'd love to see teardowns once this thing actually hits. And yeah, I think, yeah, we'll find out soon, I guess. But I think the Bluetooth is kind of interesting that's in there. And I think the device itself even really talks about it. It's a black, small device. It's a quarter of the size of the original Apple TV. It's got a power. It's got power, HDMI, Ethernet, Wi-Fi, optical, a micro USB for service and support, and hackers, of course. And it's powered by the A4 chip. And I have to imagine inside of this, there's no power brick outside of the device. So I'm imagining inside is just a power brick with an iPhone-sized device or something like that. You know, the internals of an iPhone.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so, as Steve basically highlighted, this device is just all about rentals. You can't buy a single thing on this anymore. And it's all about rentals, all about streaming. And so you're able to rent HD movies for $5, same day as release. Then they go down in cost week to week or month to month or whatever. And then HD TV shows at $1 an episode. And I'm not sure, are those compelling prices for you? I'm someone that would rather just stream from Netflix or something like that.
Well, I certainly for movies, 4.99 is not what I'm looking for. I think Netflix. I'll wait for it on Netflix or get it through the CD on Netflix if I can't get
Yeah.
it.
I think the Blockbuster, I just rented a movie for the first time in years on DVD. It was, I think, $4 to $5 for a DVD rental for 4 days. So it's kind of in line with where you get in traditional stores, the few that are still left.
Right. The 99 cents for TV shows is very interesting to me. If I miss a TV show, I've got a DVR at home, but what what tends to happen is I'll miss the first couple of episodes of a new series before I realize it's even on and I want to watch it, or one of these shows that come in as a replacement sometime in mid season or something. So I'm constantly trying to catch up with things. Somebody tells me, "Oh, you should be watching whatever," and it's 3 weeks into it. So I'm constantly trying to find old episodes, but recent old episodes, right?
Yeah.
So and what was it, 199 for the shows previously on?
Previously, it was $3 to purchase the actual shows. And kind of interestingly, Amazon now has the ability to purchase your show at $1, which is kind of interesting that Amazon has the edge now.
Oh, very, very good. I wasn't aware of that. But anyway, that 99 cent point is one that I'm willing to pay to avoid the hassle of trying to find it some other way.
Is it? I guess it appeals to a different generation of users or a different, different set of users. I myself would much rather pay $10 for Hulu Plus to get as many shows as I want every month. At 10 shows, you're already maxed out. If I watch more than 10 shows a month, I think Hulu Plus might be the way to go. This might be the solution for those that still watch traditional cable, but just miss some random episodes,
Yeah,
and that's how
and
you get it.
I think that's the point. As opposed, it's a watching behavior. It's if you watch TV and you just want to catch up with some that you missed, the 99-cent point is, I think, good. If you're trying to replace TV, then Hulu Plus is certainly the better price point, because 99 cents for a whole season is still a fair chunk of change for TV as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's about $24 a season then at 24 episodes. I think it's about the amount of episodes we have each season. Might be wrong on that.
22 to 24 depending upon the show.
Yeah. Okay. So another cool thing.
By the way, I just looked up tech specs for the Apple TV, and it has built-in IR receiver, so I'm wrong about the remote. I'm sure it's still IR.
Yeah. Okay. And kind of interestingly, they've got Netflix on this new Apple TV as a built-in app, sort of like YouTube. And it looks beautiful. You're able to search for content. So if you have Netflix that you use on your iPad, it'll now work on your Apple TV. And, of course, leaves off where you left off. You can search, access instant queue, and it's pretty much the full website done in an Apple style, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's an interesting style. At this point, I have Netflix on my computer with one interface. I have Netflix on my iPad with a slightly different interface. I have Netflix on my Roku box with a different interface, and I actually have a HD TV that has built-in widgets, which one of those is Netflix as well.
Did you also mention your iPhone, which now has the app available?
iPhone, I haven't looked at I thought the interface was pretty close to the iPad, but I haven't used it yet.
Complete overhaul. It actually looks like an iPhone app.
I also can get Netflix through my TiVo box.
Yeah.
So, there's 5 or 6 different interfaces now for the
Yeah, I've got on the TiVo, and it's not the best interface. You just have your instant queue there, and the Wii and PS3 are similar. They're pretty bad interfaces for Netflix. This one looks pretty fantastic.
Yeah, this one looks kind of similar to what I get on my TV, directly on my TV. So
I'm curious. It's a different box, right? Do you think the old Apple TV was a 1 gigahertz Intel chip, and it was a slower chip because it wasn't the whole computer on a chip? Is this new Apple TV going to make the old Apple TV software stop updating, and we won't have Netflix in the old box and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, because it is a hobby and it hasn't a huge installed base, I would not be surprised if they didn't abandon the old thing.
Yeah, I'd be kind of disappointed if they did. I've got 2 of them in the house, and it's like, oh, please add Netflix. That's the one thing I really am just dying to have on there, because right now I just took up my iPad to the TV.
You have to hack it now.
Yeah, but when you hack it, it's fine, because you can't hack it to make it run Netflix, because the processor is too slow if you're running it through the web engine or some kind of Flash or I think Silverlight-based engine. But if you had a built-in app that's not using Silverlight, it's using more built-in mechanisms, it's able to run. I think that's the problem with trying to hack it to work. It just doesn't play well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So So that's Netflix. It's a big thing.
Here's something interesting, Tim.
What's that?
On the Apple TV page, there's a remote for the iPhone and iPod Touch, the free application.
Yeah, hasn't that been there for a while?
Has it?
Yeah, we've had that for a little while. It's it works with iTunes as well, and it's a pretty cool remote. It hasn't been updated in a long time, but it works really well. So.
Well, they've got it prominently featured here, so maybe they're updating it or have updated it.
Hopefully, because I think a single person was working on this, and it just didn't get updated or whatever. And kind of cool. They're also featuring on that website that AirPlay, and it's going to work on the iPhone and iPod Touch too. So that's kind of cool. So their description is you can already stream music and video from your computer to Apple TV. With AirPlay, you can stream music, video from your iPhone, iPad, and iPod Touch too. So if you feel like watching a movie, you don't need to write or buy it again. Trying to read in to see if it says any other apps. So yeah, so it's kind of cool stuff. I think Netflix is huge for iPad users, and now this new Apple TV will have that too.
Yeah.
And also included YouTube, Flickr, and MobileMe. Same kind of interface. And so that was kind of their event. What are your kind of closing thoughts here?
One thing that just occurred to me was that the new Apple TV is so small that I will not be surprised that people start taking it on vacations with them.
Interesting. Yeah.
As long as they can get internet connectivity in their room that has an HD TV, they can take it with them.
Yeah. That's kind of a cool idea. Yeah, very cool.
Anyway, closing thoughts. I think the iPods, some of the iPods are very intriguing and very cool. The Apple TV, I think, is finally the price point that's going to make me buy one. Previously, the price point always made me think I should just pay a little more and get a mini, but now it's a big difference and it's worthwhile. And then probably the best thing for us is 4.2.
Yes, and I can't wait to play with that. Hopefully this month as developers or whatever. And yeah, do you have a favorite announcement of the day? What was your that just made my day sort of announcement?
Yeah, I mean it's 4.2 for me. That was just like once I heard that, the rest of it was almost like unimportant because I was just waiting to find out when we're going to get 4.2 and when I'm going to get folders and some of the other stuff that's really cool in 4.2.
Yeah, that was for me. It's got to be the same thing. The wireless printing, the 4.2, and all of that. The whole iPad stuff. And the other one was we finally have a microphone on the iPod Touch. That just made my day. It's like, thank you. Because I was hoping for 3G as well. I think they'll add that next year. 3G iPod Touch that can start to really attack the requirements of needing a phone. So yeah, that was kind of a very cool event that I think made a lot of people happy and a lot of people upset at the same time with the Apple TV stuff.
They always do. People get happy with what Apple does, and then somebody else gets upset because they didn't do more.
Yeah, I think overall people will be happy with this event, except for those that, I was, dreaming of this Apple TV that would be just totally out of Star Trek or something, just totally, revolutionary and brand new. And that's the one area that's like, it's kind of just an incremental update, but some nice incremental stuff.
Yep.
So cool. And John, before we leave, you guys have a new app out. I wanted to just tell everyone what it's called and where to find it.
Yeah, we finally got our iPad app out. It's let me just preface it by saying it's a silly little game, folks. And so
not your OmniFocus of iPad apps.
Yeah, don't expect a huge wonderful app, but it's a fun little thing. It's called FCU, Fighting Chicks Unlimited, and it's all about peep jousting. So if you don't know what that is, search Google peep jousting, and you'll find out what that's all about. So it's a fun little game. It's in the App Store, and it's 99 cents. So don't buy that cup of coffee. Go buy my app.
Absolutely. I can't wait to start playing and peep fighting or but so that's Apple's event. I'd love to hear from you guys, and thanks again for your time, John.
Sure. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks. Well, that is the show for today. If you'd like to send me your feedback, what are your thoughts regarding the new Apple Gear, the new iPad announcements, and all of that? I'd love to hear your take on it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. So you can send that via voice on your telephone. Just call in to 209-542-4723. That's iPad. And just call in. Add that number to your phone book, the iPad Possibilities line. That's 209-542-iPad. And I'd love to hear from you. You can also email me at iPadPossibilities@gmail.com. So that's how you leave your feedback. If you'd like to support this podcast, and I'd hope you would, please visit GadgetFreeway.com. They are the sponsor of this podcast, and they're a pretty cool site. They basically specialize in very unique niche markets, such as, gadgets in this case. They have all sorts of just unique products. They have an iPad pillow that I use to, make the iPad a more pleasant device to use in bed when reading and watching videos. They have this pretty amazing iPad, what I call the case bag, that basically it turns your iPad into both a bag where you're able to walk around with it and a case. It's very high quality. And that's something that I was actually at the Apple store the other day, actually Wednesday, probably the day that this Apple event was held. And I wasn't there to check out the new gear because I knew it wasn't going to be until next Wednesday, after their back to school event is officially ended, that they'd have their new iPods. But I was there just hanging out and helping a friend out there, and at least 3 different Apple employees actually mentioned, hey, where did you get that bag? That looks pretty awesome, because they haven't seen anything like that, because it's pretty much a one-of-a-kind kind of bag. It's both a case and a bag. It's made very high quality. I was talking to one of the Apple employees there for some extended length. The front door person talks a lot, so we got into talking, and she's seen, other handmade things and other specialized bags that just weren't high quality, and this bag just really struck her as it's high quality. It's a very utilitarian as far as you're able to access your iPad just in its bag. You don't have to pull it out of its bag to access it. And 2 other employees stopped me, hey, where'd you get that? So Apple employees are noticing that this is something cool, and I've been just loving this bag. So it's the iPad bag over at GadgetFreeway.com. And I also use their anti-glare protector to use my iPad outside, and also cuts down on that nasty fingerprint problem that I've been having for a while now. So check all of their stuff out at GadgetFreeway.com, and I'd like to thank them once again for supporting this podcast. And to support this podcast, just support Gadget Freeway. Go to GadgetFreeway.com, and if you want to check out that gear and get a discount, 10% off through the end of September. I think it's the 24th. It's sometime late September. So jump on it early so you make sure you get that 10% off at GadgetFreeway.com. And with that will do us for today. You've been listening to the iPad Possibilities Podcast on tppn.tv. This is Tim, and I'll talk to everyone again next time.